HD.
Good morning, you're watching DD News and I'm Preeti presenting this edition of Breakfast News. Every day we get breakfast news for you to make sure you keep yourself abreast with everything that is making it to the headlines. We get you national and international updates from the world of sports, business and a web review, also enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour. First, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit cyclone-stricken Gujarat and Diu to review the damage and the situation. Prime Minister to also hold a review meeting in Ahmedabad. Relief and restoration work in progress in Gujarat and Diu as cyclone Tauktae weakens to a deep depression. INS Bias, Betwa and Teg joined the search and rescue operations for barge P305. Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani says alert authorities managed to tackle the cyclone with least damage. Active cases of COVID infections continue to decline for the 15th day in a row. Vaccination coverage exceeds 18.58 crore, including over 64 lakh beneficiaries of 18 to 44 age group. COVID cases reduce in states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, Gujarat, Haryana, Telangana also exceeds lockdown till May 30th. Guidelines issued for COVID management in villages. Doctors advised to control spread of black fungus disease. Government procures 24% more wheat in the procuring states in Rabi season 2021-22 as compared to the previous season. 373.51 lakh metric tons of wheat procured against the last year's corresponding purchase of 300.58 LMT, benefiting about 38.22 lakh farmers. In international news, US House of Representatives passes hate crime bill to combat violence against Asian Americans in the wake of COVID-19. The legislation will now head to President Biden to be signed. US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi calls for a US diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Pelosi criticizes China for human rights abuses and says global leaders who attend would lose their moral authority. Spain deploys troops to patrol Ceuta, the border with Morocco, after around 8,000 migrants enter the enclave. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says the sudden influx of migrants is a serious crisis for Europe. Alright, those are the top stories. Let's get to the news in detail. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Gujarat and Diu today to personally review the situation and damage caused due to cyclone Tauktae. He will go to Bhavnagar, from where he will proceed for an aerial survey of Una, Diu, Jafrabad and Mahua. The Prime Minister will also hold a review meeting at Ahmedabad. Meanwhile, relief and restoration works are in progress in Gujarat and Diu as cyclone Tauktae weakens to a deep depression. In a massive search and rescue operation, the Indian Navy has rescued a total of 180 personnel so far from barge P305. Indian naval ships Bias, Betwa and Teg joined INS Kochi and Kolkata for undertaking search and rescue operations for barge P305, which sank 35 nautical miles from Mumbai. SAR has also been augmented with P-8I and naval helicopters, which continue to undertake aerial search in the area. In another operation, an Indian Navy seeking helicopter was launched to rescue the crew of Gal constructor, which ran aground north of Mumbai. The helo rescued 35 crew members of Gal constructor. Also, relief measures continue to mitigate the destruction caused by Tauktae. Also, an ad hoc medical camp has been established for locals who may need medical aid. Army teams will be working round the clock to provide any assistance required by people of Diu in rebuilding the devastation caused by cyclone Tauktae. Meanwhile, the official management and the official statement by Indian Navy said that offshore support vessels Samudra Sevak and SV Cheel are connected to maneuver Sagar Bhushan, and the situation at present appears to be stable. Search and rescue operation efforts are also in progress off the coast of Gujarat for 3 vessels, namely Support Station 3, Great Ship Aditi and Drill Ship Sagar Bhushan, which are 15 to 20 nautical miles southeast of Gujarat coast. INS Talwar has arrived in the area and taken over the duties of on-scene coordinator for coordination of the search and rescue effort. The Western Naval Command, in coordination with ONGC and DG Shipping, has diverted 5 tugs to render assistance. Great Ship Aditi and Support Station 3 have been able to drop anchor. Also, relief measures continue to mitigate the destruction caused by Tauktae, while an ad hoc medical camp has been established for locals who may need medical aid. Army teams will be working round the clock to provide any assistance required by the people of Diu in rebuilding the devastation caused by cyclone Tauktae. Meanwhile, the deep depression Tauktae over Gujarat region moved north-northeastwards with a speed of about 20 kilometers per hour, and it lays centered at north-northeast of Ahmedabad. It is very likely to move north-northeastwards and weaken gradually into a depression. Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, constantly monitoring the situation, assessed the damage and said that alert authorities managed to tackle the cyclone with the least damage. He also assured compensation to fishermen and households which lost their livestock during the devastation. And Meghna is joining us from Ahmedabad to get us more on that. Meghna, good morning to you. Let us know the current updates. We tell our viewers that the Prime Minister will be taking an aerial review of the devastation which is caused in Gujarat and in Diu. Added to that, also get us an update on the restoration work.
Yes, absolutely, Preeti. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to arrive in Gujarat. He will be coming to Bhavnagar, and then after that he'll be taking an aerial survey of the entire the coastal districts in particular, like the district of Amreli where Jafrabad is, the district of Gir Somnath where Una is, and Diu. Una and Diu are obviously the adjoining places, and Una and Diu, between that only the cyclone had made the landfall, the cyclone had stricken there. The thing is that there is a lot of devastation, not in terms of loss of lives, but obviously in terms of uprooting of trees and falling of electricity poles. I'm here in Ahmedabad right now, and right behind me also you can see there are like huge trees that have got uprooted. You know, there's a lot of mud, and we can actually see what kind of devastation that the cyclone has caused, not only in the coastal areas but also in areas of the central Gujarat, and also in South Gujarat, like places like Umargaon have received about 14 inches of rainfall, which is really very shocking to see that such huge rainfall, heavy rainfall has been witnessed, and several places across the state. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting all these areas, also because Gir and all these places where Asiatic lions are also situated. Gir is also one of the regions which has been highly affected. So even Asiatic lions were earlier, moved to safer places. Many of the Asiatic lions were moved to safer places so that, they do not face a lot of problem due to the cyclone. But there are several birds that have been lying dead. We have been seeing videos and pictures of several birds that died because of the big blow of the cyclone. But obviously the Animal Husbandry Department is obviously trying to evaluate and assess the entire impact so that the valid compensation can be given to the people. And the Chief Minister Vijay Rupani has said that there has not been any massive destruction, but destruction in terms of about 40 to 50,000 trees have fallen. There are several roads that have been blocked. Over 500 roads have now been made motorable. There were some COVID hospitals where electricity had snapped, but it was immediately restored because there was power backup available, and no oxygen issues were reported. Oxygen, in fact, Gujarat is transporting oxygen to other places. Even the railways, the Western Railways, had transported oxygen to the two different places, and by road also oxygen transport had not snapped, though there were hard times for ambulances reaching to SOS calls because the roads were blocked. But NDRF, rapid response teams, that their dynamic deployment and very quick response for redeployment of NDRF, SDRF, Home Guard and other teams from wherein, wherever required, where there was more impact from there, from the less impact places, the teams were moved to the places of more impact. So all these things were taken into account, and dynamic deployment was done as per need basis as well, which has helped people to reach out to the administration or to the response teams very quickly. And obviously the hotlines were continuously working. Updates were, being sent to the war room, the central war room, which was here at Gandhinagar. The district war rooms were working round the clock with higher officials, which had, averted any huge damage. Though there were tin sheets flying, glass panels had broken. There are a lot of construction activities also that have been damaged quite a bit. But that all, there has been not a huge loss of life. 13 people have died, and those people have died due to mishaps or accidents that were caused due to the cyclone, in Rajkot, Vapi, and in some places also deaths have been reported. So all these things have happened, but a very huge mishap because the winds were blowing too fast. Even in Ahmedabad yesterday in the evening, there was water logging. Several trees have fallen on the roads. So this is central Gujarat, and here also the impact could be felt. So we can just imagine the disaster that had happened on the coastline, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to just do that aerial survey, and after that meet the higher officials to assess the entire situation. Not only that, the government has also told, the state government has told that fishermen are also going to, be compensated because several boats have also been destroyed, and, damage has happened to a number of boats which were anchored at the shore. So especially the districts Amreli, Bhavnagar, Gir Somnath and Diu. All these places, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be doing an aerial survey, which are the most impacted places.
All right, the Prime Minister will be doing aerial survey, but prompt action by the authorities made sure that the effect or the devastation of the cyclone is minimized or mitigated. From here, we go across to our correspondent Shishir, who is joining us from Mumbai. Shishir, get us a sense of the relief operations which are, which are progressing with regard to barge P305. Also, let us know how has the day begun there when we talk of the weather conditions.
Well, Priti, as far as weather condition is concerned, the normalcy has returned to Mumbai, but not in the sea. And that's the reason it's quite a daunting task for the Indian Navy and probably a difficult operation that they're carrying out so far. As far as the barge 305 is concerned, which sunk yesterday, of nearly 273 people who were working on board, when this cyclone hit the particular region here. Immediately after that, Navy swung into action. They received a call on 17th of May. And within 24 hours of time span, the Navy has rescued nearly 180 people. Earlier, two ships were deployed, INS Kochi and INS Kolkata, but later on, as we've seen the severe conditions, especially in this particular region, the Navy has deployed 3 more vessels. The INS Vyas, INS Tauktae has also been deployed for the rescue operation. What we got to know is that now the Indian Navy will bring back some of the survivors to the Mumbai shore here by morning. They will reach here, but still those who are missing, probably left out in that particular region, the Navy is carrying out the rescue operation. Even last midnight, the operation was on, and it's not just about the boats, but the Navy has also taken support from the naval interceptor aircraft, that is P-8I, and the seeking helicopter that they already have deployed at various places in this entire region. Now, if you look at this particular region where this particular bar was parked, that was the Mumbai High area. Now, the Mumbai High area is almost 30 to 35 nautical miles away from Mumbai, Mumbai coastline. That's deep in sea, and it's particularly known for its offshore drilling, and it's to drill water, to drill oils, and also natural gas from this particular region. This is not just one particular bar was placed there. The other bars and oil rigs also placed nearby areas, and that's the reason the Navy on 17th of May has received, the 17th to 18th May has received nearly 4 SOS call, emergency call, One is from Gal Constrictor. Almost 137 people were stuck on that particular barge. Navy has rescued all those. All they received to almost Gujarat, Gujarat coastline, almost 50 nautical miles from Pipavav, area, and nearly almost 300 to 400 people were stuck on that particular barge here. Almost 197 on the ship SS3, and the other one, Sagar Bhushan, nearly 101 people were stuck. Currently, Navy has deployed INS Talwar for that particular region to rescue people. But as far as INS, Barge 305 is concerned, what we've got to know is that the operation still continued. Few more vessels have been deployed by the Navy, and the Navy is currently doing the operation. Well, the rough sea conditions and gusty winds, it's quite, become quite difficult for the Indian Navy to carry out the operation in that region. In spite of that, we have seen yesterday also, Navy has successfully rescued 180 people. Now, some of those people who are quite critical have been taken to the INS Shikhar Hospital of Indian Navy, which is just off coast of Mumbai. And now, with the help of helicopters and the aircraft, the Indian Navy is actually trying people to get from those particular area and wherever it's required to give them medical assistance. As I told you just now that nearly 180 people have been rescued, and those people will be brought back to the Mumbai coast by the Indian naval ship INS Kolkata that will reach in just few hours. Yes, Preeti.
All right, Shishir, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Shishir telling us about the weather conditions in Mumbai in Maharashtra, and also about the rescue operations with regard to Barge 305. From here we go across to Tapas, who's getting us more on the current condition of Cyclone Tauktae. Tapas, we tell our viewers that from deep depression, the Cyclone Tauktae will now further weaken into a depression. Let us know more about the IMD predictions, and also, the level of severity when a cyclone changes from deep depression to depression.
Right. So the deep depression that was earlier marked has now turned into depression. What it means is that the rain speed, along with the velocity of the rainfall activity, has reduced remarkably. In fact, we've been told that the only thing that is the worrisome factor is that there is a western disturbance trough that is currently going on in the northern part of the country, and that, along with this particular depression of a cyclone, the remnants of this particular cyclone, has actually made it a point where this particular situation has created a very condition where heavy rainfall activity is expected over the northwest as well as northern part of the country. In fact, warning has been issued to Himachal Pradesh along with Uttarakhand, where heavy to very heavy rainfall activity is expected in some places, as well as heavy rainfall activity is also expected in from Punjab till almost Madhya Pradesh, almost western part of the Madhya Pradesh. So the whole particular line, that the western trough that has actually been there, along with the this particular deep depression that has incurred. So this particular situation has led to rainfall activity, the increase in rainfall activity, and also the wind speed is expected to be somewhere in the region of 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. But mainly the rainfall activity that is the worrisome factor, where most of the places of Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Western Uttar Pradesh, and along with the Eastern Uttar Pradesh and Punjab and some parts of Rajasthan, where right now this particular depression is on Rajasthan, southern part of the Rajasthan. So from that particular place to almost Madhya Pradesh, this particular the line, the western disturbance trough, and combined with this depression has created a situation of rainfall activity. So many places one can see this rainfall activity. In fact, as I speak, the IMD of station of Delhi has also given a warning that mild to heavy rainfall activity can be expected from in Delhi as well as in the NCR region. So that is the latest right now from the Delhi as well as from the IMD's table, especially for this particular depression from the cyclone, which has turned into a depression right now. Preeti.
All right, Tapas, thank you so much for joining in. That was our correspondent telling us more about how the cyclone Tauktae has further weakened into a deep depression and into a depression from here on. We'll keep you updated. So we had inputs coming in from Meghna, who joined us from Gujarat, where the Prime Minister will be conducting an aerial survey over Bhavnagar and Diu, and also Shishir gave us details of the rescue operations, and Tapas told us about the current situation when we talk of Cyclone Tauktae weakening into a depression. We'll keep you updated. Moving on, vaccination drive in the country is progressing at a fast pace to control the virus. As per the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, over 18 crore 58 lakh vaccine doses have been administered so far. On day 123 on May 18th, over 13 lakh 12,000 vaccine doses were administered in the 18 to 44 years of category. More than 64 lakh beneficiaries received the first dose of the vaccine so far. India continues to put up a strong fight against the virus. The country continues its mass-scale testing as per ICMR. Over 20 lakh 8,000 samples were tested yesterday, taking the cumulative total to 32 crore 3 lakh 1,177. The countrywide battle against COVID-19 continues unabated. Many states in the country have either clamped lockdown or imposed curfew, and stricter restrictions are helping in breaking the chain. Daily data indicates that peak is over and the curve is going down with each passing day. COVID-19 cases are reducing in states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, Gujarat, Haryana. In Odisha, the statewide lockdown has entered the second phase from today. The entire state is in lockdown since the 5th of this month. That will now continue till 1st of June with complete weekend shutdown in between. This phase of the lockdown has come up with more stringent curbs on the movement of people across the state. People can now avail only a 4-hour window to purchase essential items from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on all weekdays. Marriage functions would be restricted to a maximum of 25 persons, with funerals having a cap of 20 participants only. Meanwhile, the state government has said that COVID-19 infection, having already peaked on the 13th of this month, is now on the wane, with rate of positivity sliding down from 21% last week to 18% now. Telangana government also extended the lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19 till May 30th. The state government announced a clampdown first on May 12th for 10 days, and it was to end on May 21st. Various other states are also fighting the pandemic with all their resources. From extending lockdowns to preparing proper infrastructure for post-COVID care, they are leading from the front in this battle against COVID-19. SAIL Chairman Soma Mondal gave some insights into how the Maharatna is coping with their fight against the pandemic. Mondal said that SAIL has set up several hospitals for COVID patients in different regions that are providing up-to-mark care.
Integrated steel plants of SAIL has supplied about 63,000 tons of liquid medical oxygen to more than 18 states of the country. The LMO supply has been stepped up, and today we are supplying around 1,200 metric tons per day. SAIL is also in the process of creating jumbo COVID hospitals in the integrated steel plants located in Bhilai, Bokaro, Rourkela, Durgapur and Burnpur, with 2,500 oxygen beds supplied with gaseous oxygen directly from plants through dedicated pipelines. SAIL hospitals at these 5 integrated steel plants also have around 1,300 beds for COVID treatment and more than 1,100 beds with oxygen support and about 145 ventilators.
Even as Cyclone Tauktae hit several parts of Gujarat, Indian Railways on Tuesday loaded 168.43 tons of liquid medical oxygen from Rajkot divisions, Kanaloos to Okhla in Delhi, and 4 tankers to Guntur in Andhra Pradesh through 2 Oxygen Express. So far, Indian Railways has delivered more than 11,030 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen in more than 675 tankers to various states across the country. Oxygen Expresses have been delivering nearly 800 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen to the nation each day for the last few days. The spread of COVID-19 pandemic in different parts of the country has recently assumed serious proportions. Vulnerabilities of the rural communities need to be specially addressed. Hence, panchayats and rural local bodies need to be properly sensitized. The centre has taken a step in this direction. Ministry of Finance has released an amount of 8,923.8 crore to 25 states for providing grant to rural local bodies. The amount released may be used for various prevention and mitigation measures. The ministry has also issued advisory for the guidance of panchayats as regards the action for combating the pandemic. These include intensive communication campaign for awareness on COVID-19 infection, preventive and mitigative measures. To draw the frontline volunteers for the campaign from local community, providing necessary protective equipments like oximeters, N95 masks, infrared thermal scanning instruments, etc. Display of the information on availability of testing, vaccination centers, doctors, hospital beds, etc. on real-time basis. To activate the panchayats to provide necessary institutional village-level support catering to their respective locations. Establishing a proper interlinkage with medical facilities at a nearby district and sub-districts. In some other news, the government procured 24% more wheat in the procuring states in Rabi season 2021-22 as compared to previous season. Procurement of wheat in the ongoing season is continuing smoothly in procuring states of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Delhi, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir at MSP as was done in the previous seasons. Over 373.51 lakh metric ton of wheat has been procured against the last year's corresponding purchase of 300.58 lakh metric ton. About 38.22 lakh farmers have already been benefited from the ongoing Rabi market season procurement operations with MSP value of Rs 73,768.74 crore. Kerala Chief Minister P. Vijayan will take oath along with 21-member cabinet on Thursday. Major changes are being made in the new cabinet with almost all new faces. Meanwhile, former MP and newly elected MLA MB Rajesh has been appointed as Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. The oath-taking ceremony will have only a limited number of guests in view of the COVID-19 situation in the state. The determined efforts led by government are seeing results as the declining trend in the number of active cases continues for the 16th consecutive day. At present, the total number of active cases in the country stands at 32,26,719, which is 13.29% of the total, that is cumulative positive cases in the country. Active cases have been decreasing continuously for the last 16 days. The recovery rate in the country has increased to 85.6%. In the last 24 hours, 3,89,851 patients were discharged after complete recovery. The recoveries outnumbering new infections continue as the trend since May 11. Up next, we get to international news in our segment Across the Globe. A hate crimes bill to combat violence against Asian Americans in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic passed the US House of Representatives overwhelmingly and will now head to President Joe Biden for signing. COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act was passed by a 364-62 vote. Biden backs the legislation which will speed up reviews of COVID-related hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, expand public awareness about the problem and provide state and local governments with guidance on how to combat hate crimes. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said it was critical to send a unified message on the importance of strengthening the nation's defenses against anti-violence. Also, the US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Tuesday called for a US diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, criticizing China for human rights abuses and saying that global leaders who attend would lose their moral authority. Demands for some form of boycott of the Beijing Games are growing. Last month, Republican Senator Mitt Romney introduced an amendment to broader legislation to counter China that would implement a US diplomatic boycott, while a coalition of human rights activists on Tuesday called for athletes to boycott the Games and put pressure on the International Olympic Committee.
I propose and join those who are proposing is a diplomatic boycott. But for heads of state to go to China in light of a genocide that is ongoing while you're sitting there in your seats, it really begs the question, what moral authority do you have to speak again about human rights any place in the world if you're willing to pay your respects to the Chinese government as they commit genocide.
Spain has deployed troops to Ceuta to patrol the border with Morocco after thousands of migrants swam into the northern African enclave amidst heightened diplomatic tensions. Footage from local television channels showed soldiers in armored vehicles guarding the enclave's beach as dozens of migrants emerged from the water, while hundreds of potential migrants stood on the Moroccan side of the fence between the enclave and Morocco. The arrival of the migrants took place at a time of increased tension between Spain and Morocco over the fate of Brahim Ghali, the leader of the Western Sahara's Polisario Front, who is in hospital in Spain. The Spanish enclaves of Ceuta and nearby Melilla on Morocco's northern coast have long been a magnet for African migrants trying to reach Europe in search of a better life. The conflict between Israel and Palestinians has entered into the second week with no sign of stoppage, as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged all parties to protect civilians. Blinken said that the United States is working intensively to bring an end to the violence. Blinken also made the comments at a joint briefing with Denmark's foreign minister in Copenhagen.
We've been working intensively behind the scenes to try to bring an end to the conflict. President Biden has been in touch with Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas. I spent my own flight on yesterday to Copenhagen on the phone with regional leaders, including from Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, as well as with my counterpart in France, discussing the urgent need to end the violence. And we'll continue to do that later this afternoon.
Meanwhile, France has proposed a resolution with the UN Security Council in coordination with Egypt and Jordan, calling for a ceasefire in Israel-Gaza conflict. According to French President's office statement, President Emmanuel Macron and his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is in Paris for summits on Africa, agreed on the resolution in a video conference with Jordan's King Abdullah II. France, which has been calling for rapid ceasefire for several days, said that it supports mediation led by Egypt. The UN Security Council has failed to adopt a simple declaration on the conflict, with the US, a staunch Israel ally, having rejected 3 prior statement drafts proposed by China, Norway and Tunisia, which called for an end to the fighting. Meanwhile, support continues to pour in for Palestine from across the world as hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters rallied in Los Angeles on Tuesday, demanding an end to the Israeli bombardment of Gaza that has killed scores of civilians. Los Angeles protests came as Israel hit Gaza with airstrikes and Palestinian militants resumed cross-border rocket fire on Tuesday after a brief overnight lull during which the UN sent a small fuel convoy into the enclave, where it said 52,000 people are now displaced. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed African leaders and the heads of multilateral lenders in Paris for a summit aimed at finding ways of financing African economies hurt by the pandemic and discuss handling the continent's billions of dollars debt. The summit is part of Macron's efforts to recast France's engagement in Africa, where it was once a colonial power. At a time, the continent faces a near $300 billion deficit by the end of 2023, while trying to recover from the downturn. The summit brings together some 30 African and European heads of state, as well as the heads of global financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund. Ominous and dark clouds rolled over Lubbock on Monday as Texas City experienced a supercell storm. Supercell storms are the least common and the most dangerous of 4 categories of thunderstorm because of the extreme weather they generate. They can generate destructive winds, giant hail, flash flooding, and sometimes tornadoes. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken are among representatives from 8 nations bordering the Arctic who will take part in the Arctic Council. The 2-day meeting will begin from today. The Arctic Council is made up of 8 nations bordering the Arctic, that is United States, Canada, Russia, Finland, Norway, Denmark and Iceland, with region's indigenous populations also represented. It was formed in 1996. The Council is leading intergovernmental forum for cooperation, coordination and interaction among the countries on common Arctic issues, in particular on sustainable development and environmental protection. Up next, we take a quick look at the global updates on COVID-19. As per the figures, the virus has infected more than 16 crore 48 lakh people, while the number of recoveries stand above 14 crore 38 lakh globally. Over 34 lakh 18,000 fatalities have been recorded due to the virus. The United States continues to be the worst affected country by the pandemic, reporting over 3 crore 37 lakh cases, with death toll crossing the 6 lakh mark. In Paris, store managers spruced up their windows while restaurants prepared their terraces as the lockdown-weary country prepared for a new easing of COVID-19 constraints from today on retail businesses. From today, restaurants lucky enough to have space for outdoor tables will be able to welcome diners again for the first time in over 6 months. Wednesday will also see a reopening of museums, cinemas and other cultural venues that also had to close at the start of November last year. Non-essential retail outlets will be able to reopen also to the customers for the first time in 6 weeks as France gradually winds down its third national lockdown in little more than a year. Mexico aims to ensure its population has had at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot by October before the onset of colder weather, President Manuel Lopez Obrador said on Tuesday. Mexico has so far distributed nearly 24 million vaccine doses to its population of 126 million, and Obrador said that he was sure that it would receive more shots from the United States. He also said that by July, health authorities will begin providing vaccinations to people as young as 40. During the news conference, he initially suggested Mexico could conclude its vaccination rollout before winters, but he later clarified that the aim was to ensure everyone had at least one shot by October. Argentina reported a record one-day COVID-19 death toll of 745 on Tuesday as the South American country gets hit by a second wave of infections that brought the number of positive tests recorded in a 24-hour period to 35,543. Since the pandemic began in the first quarter of 2020, Argentina has confirmed a total of 3.371 million infections and 71,771 deaths. Argentine president signed a decree a few weeks ago mandating new restrictions on leaving home and the suspension of face-to-face school classes in the areas with the highest number of infections. The measures are set to expire on Friday, but the government may decide to extend current lockdown rules. The Science Museum in London is set to reopen today with a special exhibition on the COVID-19 pandemic. After temporarily closing for 3 times since March 2020 due to repeated measures imposed by the British government to control the virus outbreak, the Science Museum is now ready to welcome back visitors with a brand new display. In the COVID-19 epidemic exhibition, visitors will see lots of objects related to the epidemic, such as the first vial of the mass COVID-19 vaccination in the UK, which was donated by the National Health Service, among others. With science having played a vital role in the epidemic prevention and control, the Science Museum said that it will now look to strengthen its expertise so as to revitalize and reshape its operations as soon as possible. And up next, we get you Web News Review. And joining us for the review is Anil Thomas. Anil, good morning to you. Let us know what all headlines have you picked up for us from the social media platforms.
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, India. Well, I've colored 5 stories for you. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The first story is from the Indian Express. This is about co-vaccine trials. That's going to begin for the younger generation, the age group that's from 2 to 18. And, in the next 12 days, co-vaccine trials, especially on children, are going to begin. So that's a big positive that one looks at especially when you look at, the dangers roaming around COVID and the surge in COVID, especially in phase 2 and phase 3. Moving forward to the next story, that's from the Hindu. This is about WHO now deciding It's time that they decide to announce systems, vaccine variants very much on line with hurricanes. You don't get that vaccine variant as a B1416 or a B1417, rather get names attached to it so that the associations or the stigmatizations, especially with countries that have, that started somewhere with the Chinese virus and variants being called like that, is stopped, and you have a proper name that you can, actually look forward to. So there is a lot of discrimination that happens because of that. That could be wiped out if one takes care of naming it very much on the lines of what hurricanes are named by the meteorological departments. The next story is from Kerala down south, from the Economic Times, where the left government won a mandate of winning of the 140 seats, 99 seats, and the chief minister there, Pinarayi Vijayan, has decided to do a complete U-turn of his cabinet. Not a single minister has been retained. The biggest surprise being that COVID warrior, the one who led from the front, especially when it comes to the COVID battle, also the Nipah virus battle, KK Shailaja being dropped from the cabinet. That came as a surprise. It surprised many. There's been a mini storm on social media with regards to her being ignored. But it's the left party's decision not to include a single face from the previous government, the previous ministers. So except for the chief minister, all the ministers have been dropped, and KK Shailaja too bears the brunt. The next story that I picked is from the Mint. This is with regards to insurance, especially for people who are hospitalized with regards to COVID. But there was a huge, drawback. People who were not hospitalized for less than 24 hours, or people who were taking treatment who were not coming under the health insurance cover. So there has been a slow change, or a slow change in dimension when it comes to giving covers to people who are having less than 24 hours of hospitalization. So that's going to be included under health cover, and that's a big plus when you look at the current situation that we all are in. The final story that I picked is from the Hindustan Times. This is from the field of football, where last night we saw a lot of EPL action. Chelsea, have stormed back through very imperfect fashion. They have managed to win 2-1 against Leicester. Remember, they lost that final there by a solitary goal to Leicester over the weekend. So they have bounced back strongly. They've got a Champions League final coming up. But this particular win is significant because they cling on to that number 3 position. They cling on to the number 3 position. A Champions League position is assured for them. That's not all. The two other leaders there, Manchester City as well as Manchester United. Manchester City has fumbled. They have lost the game 2-3, while Manchester United have been held to a draw. So all in all, if you see, Chelsea now look almost certain to take that third spot. They've got a game over the weekend against Aston Villa coming up. And even if they escape with the draw, I think they would have secured their place for next season's Champions League. But they've got a big Champions League final coming up this month too. So we've got to look forward to that. But, those are the stories that I've called out for you this morning from the newspapers. It's over to you.
All right, indeed. That was a crisp web review this morning, Anil. Thank you so much for joining us with that. Up next, we get to business news in our segment, BizBuzz. The government has brought changes in the existing customs import of goods at concessional rate of duty rules, that is IGCR 2017, to boost trade facilitation. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has introduced the changes through Customs Import of Goods at Concessional Rate of Duty Amendment Rules 2021. The Rules 2021 lay down the procedures and the manner in which an importer can avail the benefit of a concessional customs duty on import of goods required for domestic production of goods or providing services. The Ministry of Finance in a statement said that one major change that accommodates the needs of trade and industry is that the imported goods have been permitted to be sent out for job work. The absence of this facility had earlier constrained the industry, especially those in the micro, small and medium enterprises. This sector, which did not have the complete manufacturing capability in-house. The ministry further said that importers who do not have any manufacturing facility can now avail the IGCR 2017 to import goods at concessional customs duty and get the final goods manufactured entirely on job work basis. However, some sectors such as gold, jewelry, precious stones and metals have been excluded. Domestic stock markets opened in the red this morning. Sensex was down more than 100 points but still above 50,000 mark, while the Nifty was comfortably above 15,000. Mahindra & Mahindra, ONGC, Kotak Mahindra Bank and HDFC were the top laggards on the Sensex. Power Grid, Ultratech Cement and Nestle India were the top gainers. Mid-cap and small-cap indices were outperforming benchmark indices and were trading with gains. Volatility was flat, trading below 20 levels. Bank Nifty and Nifty Auto were down in the red, while Nifty Realty and Nifty PSU banks were up with the gains. US stocks slipped on Tuesday, with investors retreating from shares of companies closely tied to the economy. Shares of banks, industrial firms, energy companies and raw materials producers were among the biggest decliners in the S&P 500, with all four sectors falling more than 1% in a spate of selling that accelerated into the market close. Investors had piled up into those groups in recent sessions, betting that they would benefit from economic reopening more than technology firms, which are more sensitive to inflation. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 267.13 points or 0.8%. The S&P 500 slid 35.46 points or 0.9%. Nasdaq Composite declined 75.41 points or 0.6%. Up next, we get you sports updates in Sports Track. The Sports Ministry has approved a grant of 2.5 lakh rupees to Asian Games gold medalist and international powerlifting coach Joseph James. He has recently recovered from COVID. The Sports Ministry on Tuesday informed that James, the 2008 Asian Powerlifting Championship gold medalist, has been sanctioned funds from Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay National Welfare Fund for Players, winner of the Asian Games gold medal in 2006 and a gold at the Asian Powerlifting Championship in 2008. Joseph James developed serious breathing issues on April 24th after contracting COVID-19. His oxygen levels were low and the family had to admit him at the hospital in Hyderabad on an urgent basis. He was in ICU for 7 to 8 days and was discharged on May 5th. He is stable now and is under home quarantine. Indian contingent is all set to participate at the upcoming 2021 Aspc Asian Boxing Championships, which is jointly hosted by Boxing Federation of India and the UAE Boxing Federation. The matches will be kicked off from May 24th and will continue till 1st of June in Dubai. Following continuous efforts from the Boxing Federation of India, fields a full-strength Indian contingent. Though the prevailing travel ban had created doubts over participation of Indians in the championships, BFI put in best efforts to ensure its players did not miss the opportunity of participating in the prestigious event. The national body, which had earlier named the women's team spearheaded by 6-time world champion Mary Kom, announced the men's side as well, which will be headlined by defending champion Amit Panghal. All the players alongside coaches and support staff are already in the biosecure bubble, and as expected, they are to reach Dubai on May 22nd. Following continuous efforts from the Boxing Federation of India, fields a full-strength Indian contingent. The UEFA Champions League race in English Premier League is coming to a photo finish. Champions Manchester City and Manchester United have already booked their place in next year's Champions League. The battle for third and fourth spots between Chelsea, Leicester City and Liverpool will extend to the final day. Chelsea regained their third spot on the table yesterday after defeating Leicester City for 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. Defender Antonio Rudiger and midfielder Jorginho scored for the Blues. The 76th minute goal by Aya Nacho took the match to a thrilling finish. However, Leicester were not successful in levelling the score. Leicester is now 1 point behind Chelsea at 4th place, followed by Liverpool, shot by 3 points with 1 extra match to play. Liverpool will face Burnley today. Irrespective of the result, all 3 clubs will have to wait till Sunday to know their final position in the table. Let's talk of tennis now. Roger Federer, one of the best tennis players in the world, suffered a loss in the second round of Geneva Open and was also eliminated from the tournament. Federer was beaten by 35-year-old Pablo Andujar for 6-4, 4-6, 6-4. Federer returned to the same tournament after the injury, but his campaign ended in the second round. Federer leading 4-2 in the third set at one time, but Andujar came back strongly. The veteran won the match by defeating the player 6-4 in the decisive set. Now, this was Federer's first match in last 2 years at clay court, and he had last lost to Rafael Nadal in the semi-finals of French Open in 2019. Up next, we take a look at the weather forecast. The deep depression of cyclonic storm Tauktae over Gujarat moved northeastwards with a speed of about 7 kilometers per hour, and it weakened into a depression, and it lays centered over South Rajasthan and adjoining Gujarat region. Because of this, rainfall at most places with heavy to heavy falls and isolated places is likely over Gujarat region and Saurashtra, and at isolated places over South Rajasthan. Also, remnants of cyclone Tauktae are likely to cause fairly widespread rainfall over western Himalayan region and adjoining plains of northwest India, and also heavy to heavy rains are expected over Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Haryana, Chandigarh and Delhi, and West Uttar Pradesh as well. And now we take a look at temperatures across major cities in the country. That's it in this edition of Breakfast News this morning. But before we go, we leave you with this reminder every day. Make sure you do not let your guards down against the virus. Wear a mask, wear it correctly and properly. That is the best precaution you can have against the virus. Not only protecting yourself, but also people around you. And every day we also leave you with some beautiful images, which I'm sure stay with you for the rest of the day. The feel-good factor of these images stay with you for the rest of the day. We'll take you to somber alpine city of Bresciano in Italy, where an artist, Petra Poli, marked the International Day of Light. In her attempt to spread positivity through her light work, she illuminated the city with encouraging messages. Take a look. Bye-bye.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.